Prologue. The map that survived fire. By the time investigators fully understood what they were looking at, the map had already been handled by 3 departments, catalogued twice, and nearly dismissed as an afterthought. It was found folded inside a metal lockbox recovered from the suspect's abandoned property. The box itself contained little of immediate interest: old receipts, keys that matched nothing, and a few scraps of paper browned with age. But beneath those scraps was the map. The edges were burned, not charred completely, but scorched enough to suggest intent. Someone had tried to destroy it, carefully enough to make sure it looked accidental, but not thoroughly enough to erase what mattered. Drawn in dark ink were 15 circles, not labeled, not numbered, just marks, precise, deliberate, and evenly spaced. At first, investigators assumed the 15th was a mistake, or a leftover from some earlier draft. But as the weeks passed and the map was compared against known locations tied to the case, something unsettling emerged. 14 of the circles corresponded to places already discovered. The 15th did not. 14 answers, 1 problem. By the time the task force reconvened, Grayrage had already endured years of investigation. The disappearances, the basement, the cabin, the evidence rooms filled with personal belongings. Each discovery had peeled back another layer of the town's carefully maintained normalcy. But this meeting was different. There were no reporters outside the building, no press statements prepared, no public timeline. Inside the briefing room, the lights were low, the air stale with exhaustion. A whiteboard stood at the front, covered with photographs and location pins. 14 red circles were neatly crossed out. 1 remained untouched. Detective Marco Ramos stood at the front of the room, staring at the board as if waiting for it to explain itself. "Every time we think we've reached the end," he said quietly, "this case reminds us we haven't." The 15th circle sat just beyond the edge of the map's search area, far enough to avoid casual discovery, close enough to feel intentional. This was not an oversight. It was a boundary. 2. The pattern no one saw. The breakthrough came not from geography, but from timing. A junior analyst, brought in to reevaluate the map from scratch, noticed something others had overlooked. The circles weren't placed by distance measured in miles or meters. They were spaced by time. Each circle was approximately 15 minutes apart, on foot. Not driving distance, not cycling distance, walking. The realization reframed everything. The suspect hadn't chosen these locations because they were hidden or convenient. He chose them because they were reachable, because they formed a rhythm, because they created a controlled perimeter around a central point, the original basement where the first evidence had been uncovered. 14 locations fit perfectly within that pattern. The 15th lay just beyond it. Whoever did this, Ramos later explained, wasn't mapping places. He was mapping movement. Part 3. The place that didn't matter. When the 15th circle was finally overlaid onto modern satellite imagery, it landed on land most residents barely remembered existed. Locals called it the Flats, a low-lying stretch of marshland just past the edge of town. Too damp to build on, too dense to walk through comfortably. It flooded in the spring, froze unevenly in the winter, and buzzed with insects in the summer. It wasn't dangerous. It wasn't secret. It was simply ignored. That, investigators realized, made it perfect. Search teams moved in before dawn, unmarked vehicles parked a mile away. The department made no public announcement. No helicopters were used. Even radios were kept to a minimum. If this place mattered to the killer, they did not want him to know they were there. For the depression in the earth, the first sign wasn't obvious. No structures, no debris, no disturbed vegetation. But one of the searchers noticed a subtle change in the ground. A shallow dip in the earth that didn't match the surrounding terrain. It was too symmetrical to be natural, too evenly shaped to be erosion. As they cleared away leaves and brush, the shape became unmistakable. A circle. At its center sat 15 stones, arranged by hand. Each stone was roughly the same size. None were native to the immediate area. Someone had carried them here deliberately, one by one. There were no tools nearby. No footprints at first glance. No sign of recent disturbance. Just the stones. And the silence. 5. What the circle wasn't. The initial assumption was burial. Ground-penetrating radar was deployed. Soil samples were taken. The area was scanned again and again. Nothing. No remains. No containers. No weapons. No clothing. It wasn't a grave. It wasn't a cache. It wasn't evidence in the traditional sense. That confused everyone. Years of investigation had conditioned detectives to expect something tangible. Something that could be photographed, logged, and processed. But this place offered none of that. What it offered instead was intention. This wasn't about hiding, Ramos said later. It was about marking. 6. The stones begin to speak. Each stone was bagged and transported for analysis. Individually, they were unremarkable. Together, they told a story no one was prepared to hear. The stones came from different locations around Greyridge. One matched the riverbed where a victim had last been seen walking home. Another matched the gravel near the old grocery store parking lot. One came from behind the high school gym. Another from the abandoned train crossing. Each stone represented a place where one of the girls had been alive. Not where she disappeared. Not where she was harmed. Where she existed normally. The 15th circle was not a crime scene. It was a memory site. 7, 14, and 1. 14 victims. 15 stones. The discrepancy became impossible to ignore. Investigators returned to the map, then to the circle, then back again. The answer, when it came, was chilling in its simplicity. The 15th stone wasn't for a victim. It was for him. A space within the circle reserved not for observation, but participation. A place where the killer positioned himself as part of the pattern he created. He didn't see himself outside the story, one profiler explained. He saw himself at the center of it. 8. The killer who returned. 3 nights after the 15th circle was documented, the department's tip line received a call. No caller ID, no traceable signal, just a voice. "You finally found it," the caller said calmly. "Took you long enough." Then the line went dead. Audio analysis later confirmed what investigators feared. The cadence, the phrasing, the pauses. It matched a call recorded years earlier. The killer hadn't vanished. He had been listening,